So, hello everyone. Happy Monday. Welcome to another Delivery Weekly. Hopefully you all know this already, but just double checking. There's another Friends and Family Day coming up. So the 9th of October. So for once, Alessio, you get to experience the Friends and Family Day as well, which is great. I'll make a note in the agenda so that we should remember next week we should do the whole pausing of brunches stuff again that we did last time to stop just churning stuff out. So I'll make a note to remember to remind you next week. Jav.
Oh, I just also wanted to note there's a US holiday on Monday that I was planning to take, and maybe others are well. So that'll be a nice, I guess, for those who take it, it'll be a nice long weekend. Not that you can't take a long weekend any weekend, but still feels special.
That's a great point. Robert, is that a bank holiday for you, a public holiday for you as well?
Yes, I didn't realize that, but yeah, apparently.
Cool. Okay. Great. We'll cover you on release management then. So it should be a quiet day anyway, so that's no problem. I can cover that stuff. Awesome. So we're heading into October this week. So I wanted to kind of just a bit of a catch up. So October is the final month in Q3. So first off, we've got loads in progress, but we're making great progress. So well done on that stuff. For the next month, let's really focus on like wrapping things up. Like I think a lot of stuff is very close to being there. So we've got in our key results, and also we've got quite a lot of epics in progress. So all stateless services in Kubernetes, this is probably, as expected, the key result, which we've made the least progress on, but it was always the stretchiest one. So Jarvis, is there anything that you particularly need from all of us as a team to help move this stuff forwards?
Yeah, I mean, like I probably need help for, well, I need probably most help from Scarbeck, but I think all of the issues are laid out in the epic for Git HTTPS. We could start with I guess we could start with Git SSH as well. But about after this meeting, I kind of wanted to loop up with Scarbeck anyway. Are you going to be available to talk?
Yeah, we can have a sync call if you'd like.
Yeah, let's do that. Yeah, that's it.
Cool. Okay, great stuff. But as I say, it was always known to be a stretch. So, and we brought in some extra work. Not everyone's probably been following, but we brought in some extra work to investigate multi-clusters. So, you know, like if, well, it was known it was additional stuff. So that's completely fine. Next key result, we've got removing manual steps from our deployment process. I have just made a bit of an edit on this, on the wording inside this key result. So, originally, when we had this, well, the original intent, I think, is more reflective of what's written now around kind of the removing manual steps around a deployment. What we know is this bleeds really neatly into rollbacks, which is a big, a very important thing. As Alessio has already done a lot of the thinking and writing up on this stuff. But I think given where we are in the quarter, it was kind of mentioned to me was like, was this always part of the key result? And actually, no, that probably actually wasn't the original intent at the beginning. So it makes a lot more sense. We know that we need to complete assisted deployments and have that fully validated before we can move into the rollbacks. So it's not really something we can parallelize. So I've actually just tightened up the wording inside that key result to more accurately represent what we kind of originally said. And then as we go into Q4, we can pick up some of the next bits. I do have a couple of questions. So we kind of I've called out this sort of 7 steps, I believe, for removing manual steps in deployments. Well, 2 questions really. One is I've got there, are there any new application errors following the canary baking time? So that's kind of the Sentry stuff. Is that something that we are going to automate, like, or sort of do away with the Sentry stuff?
So this is a good question. And basically, the point is that getting error on Sentry is really tricky. And this tool is more designed for QA than just preventing deployments to happen or things like that. It's more a development tool when you want to say, I want to fix something, let me go and search for it, because it's very noisy. So our bet, because it's a bet, in the development of the automation is that errors reflect, the number of errors is what matters, because you may with a new error you may broke something, but if that something is really not really frequent, it does not the big numbers are not affected. So it's still something that we have to catch, but it can't be shifted on the right hand of the deployment pipeline. So at the very end you prevent the deployment because there's a one edge condition in a very special parameter. So so the short answer is no.
So how are we going to, does that mean we basically need to move away from relying on Sentry errors in order to fully automate this pipeline?
I'm afraid that, or we go in some very weird kind of analysis. So we can do something like machine learning over the name of the thing. So we do some inference statistics and we say, we always see this kind of error, so they are not important. And we try to get it's not a boring solution. And probably I don't think it's even worth doing, because we had this because it was a manual step and we were doing a lot of manual steps, so we can just add another one. And if you're deploying once a week, you can check there. But if you are deploying 3-4 times a day, it's not really that useful, unless we can make the list better. But
is it meaningful to just look not at specific errors, but at the rate of errors? Say, like if we're used to seeing, 100 errors an hour, and suddenly we're seeing 300.
But this is what we are doing. We are already doing with our metrics, because the base idea was that we want to check error rates and not the specific errors in Sentry. So talking with Andrew, he told me we are already collecting error rates in Prometheus, and they are already segmented by Git, workers, by stage and by service. So this is what we actually right now we are looking at those errors.
I guess those are response codes more than like specific exceptions, right? I don't know if there's a functional difference.
No, well, Sidekick has no response code, so they are actual errors. So for the web, I think it's 500. For the Sidekick, it are failed jobs.
You got a minute. Okay. So would you trust the metrics we have in place without Sentry?
Yeah, that's basically the idea is this one, that if their metrics are good enough for paging the on-call, and we lowered the sensitivity, that's the bet we are doing here, basically, because we can't deploy more frequent and having to check manually any one of them. And I'm quite sure that we missed a lot of new errors every single release, even when we were actively looking for them. So I don't think it's something that should be part of a deployment pipeline, but it's more of a, let's say, tech debt analysis or refining the product, because someone has to look at those errors and open issues, and someone has to fix them. But if you are breaking something very loudly, that will just prevent you to, just creating an outage or something like that, this will be picked. Because
I wonder, and I was thinking about this before, I wonder if we should just draw an arbitrary line that says Sentry errors that affect more than 100 users or 1,000 events And then we have a concerted effort to clean up what we have. And perhaps we like have an exception for statement timeouts, since those are always happening. Because if you do look at Sentry, sure, it's very noisy, but I'm actually looking at it right now and I see some things that are kind of scary. And to be honest, like with the new baking thing, I've been paying less attention to Sentry. And maybe this is a bad thing.
I worry that if we pay less attention to Sentry, we may skip something that is rather critical. And I don't want to induce an outage because we're paying less attention to Sentry. So this has to be a little nervous.
I think we should certainly, I think it'd be a really good one to have as an issue and discuss. Like, I'd definitely be interested to think about the sorts of errors that I saw in Sentry, where I thought, oh, we should investigate that. Even if the numbers were relatively low, some of them were quite catastrophic, but relatively low numbers. It'd be great to think about how confident would we be that we'd find something along those lines if we didn't have Sentry, or what other options have we got, basically. I'd really like to get away from having a manual step. Like, I think it's really easy to overlook stuff for loads of different reasons, but I think it'd be good to evaluate how much risk we feel we're taking with that.
I will insist that we should be able to roll back safely and just not spend time in looking every single errors. Because when I was doing release management, I spent more time digging every single stack trace over there and opening issues and having engineering managers not even caring of my request to just take a look at this, or just because you open an issue and maybe 2 months later say, oh, I'm not the engineering manager of this thing. Maybe I would take a look, and nothing happens. And this is already happening. Unless you have a real outage, nobody would take care of it. And the thing is, if you have an outage, our metrics should detect it, because basically you are breaking canary at the beginning. So, I mean, I would prefer being able to go back and having a safe system instead of just selecting every single edge case. But then we need something else, which is not part of delivery, but is part of having a healthy product, which is, yeah, we have this error. This is technical debt. Someone has to look at them, open issues, and fix them. I mean, this is just my opinion, but.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point. I think there's like different types of errors, right? Like, so I think you're right on those ones, which we see every time, huge numbers, like clear tech debt. I definitely think there are others where it's like catastrophic, new, worth investigating on a release.
But how do you automate detecting a potential catastrophic error just by the name of the error?
I think you could maybe categorize front-end exceptions a bit, like you could put more weight on them than Sidekick exceptions, because those aren't always user visible, or oftentimes they're expected by Sidekick. So that could be one way, and that you can differentiate just by the users affected in Sentry, right? So maybe that's the answer. And that kind of goes back to, maybe we should just draw an arbitrary line, say like if there are over 100 users affected by an error, we don't move forward.
Should we get an issue open so we can evaluate that? Like, I guess what I want to make sure if we include this in our key result, then it's going to be a useful thing to include in the key result, or not. Like, I think you're right, longer term, a rollback, although a rollback's pretty long, right? So I think this will be a shift left activity later on, that if we could have caught something earlier, it could be good. But I think we probably need to just think about what we might lose and how we work around that stuff. Aside from that question, that piece, what do you need from the rest of the team, Alessio, to progress with this key result?
Can I have Scarbeck as well? No, actually, so What we need at the moment is introducing other checkpoints in the pipeline. So, because looking at the steps, basically we check at the beginning, and then we go straight to the end of the deployment. So, being able to check the status, identify a place where we can check the status again, and maybe halting the deployment, or maybe it's outside of the scope of this, but just warning that, yeah, we are 50% of the deployment and it's not looking good. So I said Scar. Oh, but I can have Jarvis instead of Scarbuck? Can I have Jarvis? No, well, the point is that most of those pipelines are written in Ansible. So I kind of expect that we have to understand what is happening during the deployment in terms of in Ansible, and eventually split something so we have intermediate points where we can perform more checks.
Yeah, Alessio, why don't we set something up in the AM our time, because I think we're both pretty free in the morning, and then we can see.
Is there already an issue to discuss this precise problem?
I will find the issue for you.
Awesome. And then we also have lots of other epics in progress. So first one, I've not put the Kubernetes ones on. They're all kind of linked under the KR there, but under the release velocity stuff. So blocking nature of security releases, Myra. So what do you need for us to be able to close out this epic?
Ice cream or something. Something like that. Yeah, no, I think we are very close to close it. We just implemented triggering pipelines for merge results, which is nice. And then I think we are wrapping up the way we process security merge requests. We are basically waiting to see how the security release progresses, to see like the last iteration of the experiment. And after that, we can close that one. The one that relates to security releases and auto-deployed, I think the one related to that issue is, or where am I? Yeah, I think, no, yeah, we can close that one. Yes, we are referring to the same one.
Amazing, fantastic, great work on that stuff. And I should add, when I say we need to close this epic out, like it doesn't mean we can't do stuff in the future, right? What I'm really trying to reduce is the number of things in parallel we have. So the moment we pretty much have a project per person. It'd be great if we had a little bit less so that we could do a bit more collaboration and moving around, knowledge sharing and things like that. So it doesn't have to be finished, polished. I know there's some tech debt that we want to tackle, and we can put that in, of course, as we go along. So just add that. Awesome, great work there. Yorick, you're also making great progress. How's the release code going?
Yeah, pretty good. The merge requests have all been merged, and I set up a testing plan earlier today. That will need some discussion with release managers to figure out sort of when we're going to do the exact testing. Specifically, there will be an RC and a patch release. And if that works fine, we can do an actual minor release with it. There's a bit of a discussion in terms of like, oh, should we do a patch release first and then an RC, or an RC and patch release? But we'll figure that out in the issue. And so from now, it's mostly sort of bound by when we can do that, right? In other words, if we could do it all tomorrow, for example, we're basically done, I guess, tomorrow. Yeah, apart from whatever bugs we probably run into. But yeah, the rest is done. After that, the steps, presuming it works. There's some functionality we introduced a couple of months ago to automatically generate RCs. I have to take another look at that if that is still something we want to do. And there were some complications with it, specifically revolving around dealing with merge conflicts that we need to look into. I don't remember exactly what the latest consensus on it is. It's been like 4 or 5 months since we last ran that. And so the conclusion might as well be like, we don't need it after all, but we'll see. So that's it, basically.
Awesome, that sounds great. Yeah, if you want to just like dust off that issue or epic or whatever it is and share it out, we can review where we're at with that. Like, I'd love to think about these things kind of in line with knowing we want to move towards rollbacks and knowing we have an MTTP of 12 hours, target of 12 hours. Like, how does this all fit together? Like, we can do more than one thing, but let's make sure we do things in a good order to get that stuff. So
yeah, I think perhaps for those not familiar, like this was this system to automatically generate RCs, I think, starting like the 7th or so of the month. And it would then, create a stable branch, automatically update it, etc. We proposed this, I think, when we were still doing auto deploys twice a week, I think it was. And so back then it made a lot of sense. I think nowadays, honestly, because we auto deploy at least once a day, perhaps even more, I'm starting to sort of question the value of generating RCs every single day, for like 2 weeks on an end, because it's going to do essentially duplicate work from auto deploys, and I'm going to be very harsh here. Nobody checks it. Like, if you have a particular feature that you explicitly want to test, probably yes. But I would argue, 90% of the tests, they do their testing in Sage and Canary production. They're not going to remember, oh, wait, there's an RC on releases.gitlab.net, I think it was. So I have to test it there too. So we might as well probably save ourselves a lot of trouble and not do it. But yeah, we'll keep the issue.
cool. Okay, yeah, that makes a lot of sense. That does sound sensible.
Yorick, regarding the merge conflict thing, it should no longer be a problem because now we are no longer updating Gitly version on the auto-deploy branches, but they get updated directly on master. So I don't think you will have problem with merge conflicts now.
Right. Yeah, that's. I remember that, and I believe that would indeed make it easier. I think the issue still remains there that theoretically you could have merge conflicts. I don't think it has ever happened. So it falls into the category, okay, do we want to do anything with that or just deal with them as they arise? I'm currently leaning... Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. We had the same problem with the merge requested bumps Gitly version, because it's something like it should work and just do the thing, but it may fail. So in that case, we ended up having a special job in the pipeline that only runs if the pipeline fails, detects the name of the branch, so it only runs in that specific branch, and in that case, it warns Gitly team on their own channel. So in case we can consider pinging us or doing something.
Yeah, we could do that. I'm currently leaning towards let's just scrap the entire thing, because I just like removing code more than adding extra checks. Yeah.
Awesome. Sounds good. And then the other epic we have is the container registry one. Do you want to update on that one, Skarbek?
It's words, slow work in progress, but it sounds like we're going to kind of pause on this as we wait for some more details from the package team regarding implementation details for the database, as well as a potential need for a second deployment. But we're still waiting to hear back from them on that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, sounds good. This is to support their work migrating in November, December. So we've got a little bit of time before they fully need that one. But that's going to be a good one. I think if we can see opportunities for experimenting with other things we could want to bring into our own pipelines or anything like that, then this could be a good opportunity as well. So awesome. So lots going on there. If people need help and stuff, like feel free to, obviously ask each other and things like that. This kind of ties into what I've been thinking about with the workflow stuff. So I've just linked in there, like, please take some time this week to have a read through my kind of updated proposal. Thanks all for the feedback so far. It's been really, really helpful. What I'm hoping to get to is something which, in a situation where we are like today, where we go, oh, we have lots of things in progress. If you were able to pick up a new issue, you would have somewhere where you can go to, and it'd be much more easily like obvious to say, oh, okay, if I, Alessio is waiting on this task that I can do that will help move along that key result, so I should pick that stuff, versus needing to actually know, oh, all of these epics are in progress and they have these issues, and go and sort of hunt them down. So that's what I'm sort of leaning towards, trying to find a way where we have probably a board, just because that gives you some labels for free, but basically a place where you could kind of easily find the most important or high impact things that are ready to go. There's lots of kind of haze around that, around like, how does stuff get there and how do we triage it and all that. Like, don't worry about that stuff. We definitely want to get something which we can automate as much as possible around. But the big sort of thing I'm focusing right now is how can we make it really easy to pick the most high value item when you need to pick up something, basically. So feel free to go ahead, add comments, make suggestions, and go through and things like that. Like, I'm part of this, I am tweaking some labels and things on some issues. Just feel free to ignore me on that stuff. I'm just trying to work out what a board might look like, and it's a little bit easier if I change some of the labels on some of our issues to make them a little bit more consistent. So don't worry about that stuff. It's not an expectation that you're following some mystery new process. I'll come back to you and explain that stuff as I get a bit closer. So hopefully though, we'll work towards something that we all can kind of find useful. Fantastic. Is there anything else anybody wanted to bring up on the recording?